Welcome back to another video. Over 80% of you are not subscribed. So if you do enjoy today's video, please consider subscribing and enjoy today's video. 20 of the most controversial changes in R6 history. What do we think is going to be in this video? I think one of them has to be the ADS speed. Them nerfing or slowing down the ADS speed or the 1.5. I don't know what. Let's just watch the video and see.
In this video, I'll be showing you the 20 most controversial balancing changes in Siege history. The first of these controversial changes that I want to discuss is the removal of the SMG-11 ACOG and the Jaeger and Bandit ACOG.
I don't know.
This caused a debate to be sparked amongst the community about whether the ACOG should be used as a balancing metric. Many people felt that almost every gun in the game should have access to ACOG.
Do you think the removal of, I don't know, I feel like probably in the moment, I can understand in the moment it was probably like, what the hell are we doing? But like for the game long term, like it probably was a smart thing to do. But
while many others argued that ACOG gave the defense an unfair advantage because it allowed them to peek outside onto the attack.
Like,
this is a very
crazy.
divided period in the community. Many people felt very strongly about their different opinions on this topic. And these changes also started to spark discussions about whether or not spawn peaks were okay to be in the game. Many people felt that Ubisoft should start focusing on fixing spawn peaks on maps instead of removing ACOGs. And so it sparked even further discussion as to whether or not spawn peaks were healthy for the game and whether Ubisoft should be focusing on fixing them. The next controversial change that I want to discuss is the Glaz rework that came in Operation Phantom Sight. What this rework did is that it forced Glaz to stand still for a significant period of time for his scope to be able to have thermal capabilities. This meant that Glaz had to be a lot more stationary, and it basically removed any ability for him to be aggressive at all. The reason this was so controversial,
once again, I'm like, I don't mind the first two. I feel like Glaz just being able to chuck down a smoke and just wing it with no like, just swing.
Is because many people felt that this rework just absolutely killed
I feel like this one's fair,
and it kind of did. His pick rate after this tanked, and his usefulness in the meta never really recovered. However, many players, most of which who played in the earlier days of Siege, argued that it was necessary because Glaz was way too overpowered before.
It was.
Another major rework that became pretty controversial in the community was the Tachanka rework, which came in Year 5 Season 3 or Shadow Legacy.
Do you think Tachanka should have just
gave Tachanka a brand new gadget? It removed his old stationary turret that he could place down and replaced it with a fireball launcher. This fireball launcher filled a very similar role to something like Smoke's grenades. It stopped the attackers from entering an area of the map by covering it with fire, allowing the Tachanka to slow pushes from the attack and to also hold power position. However, the reason this rework was so controversial is because it redesigned Tachanka, which took away a lot of the memes and community jokes surrounding him, while actually managing to still make him one of the worst operators in the game, because the fireball launcher was too slow and clunky to get use out of, and a lot of the times you'd end up dying trying to use this gadget in the first place. So because of that, many people felt that Ubisoft should have just left him in his original state, so that way the memes could still be alive and he could still be a popular operator in the community, even though he may not have been strong.
I feel like older Tachanka actually was like, okay, I admit he's bad, but like he was also fun in some, like just holding down the ground and you just like, you know what I'm saying? Like it was kind of like, I don't know.
Now after the Tachanka rework, another really controversial change that came in Operation Shadow Legacy was the addition of Ping 2.0. Many people even today believe this change was an overall negative for the game because it allows players to make more precise callouts that they wouldn't have been able to do otherwise.
Yes.
The majority of the people making this complaint were pro players and other high level players because they felt it removed all skill from communication, which allowed noobs to flourish without having to learn many callouts. However, the average person disagreed with this, and many felt that
like, I understand the average, like it's good for the game, like casual players, like, you know, have that communication. Like in a high elo, there's no skill. Like you just sit on a cam, like a hidden Valkyrie cam, you just yellow ping something and like you just know exactly pinpoint where the attackers are, and the attackers, there's no downside to it, you know? It's not like they don't get there like you've been spotlight. This
change was actually a positive because it made it easier for players to learn callouts on maps, and it also allowed people to communicate without having microphones. And another really controversial change that came in Shadow Legacy is map bans, which I'm sure you can tell by now, Shadow Legacy was a very controversial season. The reason why the addition of map bans was such a controversial change is because map bans made players have to play the same few maps repeatedly, since a lot of the same maps would get banned over and over and over again. So many people made the complaint that they...
Yeah, some people say, okay, yeah, map bans are good for the game, but some people like, you know, like some people out there might love Lair. right? But because layer just keeps getting banned, like you're just never gonna see the day of like, so it's kind of like, I guess in that sense maybe, but
end up having to play
I can understand both sides
over and over and over again. And to be honest, those complaints have never really gone away. There's still a huge portion of the player base that really does not like map bans and wants it removed. And then there's also a really big portion of the community that likes map bans because it allows them to not play maps that they don't enjoy playing. Now, moving away from Operation Shadow Legacy, the next change we're going to be discussing is the runout timer nerf that came in Operation Neon Dawn. This rework to the runout timer made it only 1 second before you got revealed, and many players.
Is that good or bad, chat? The run out timer. So when you run out, it's now 1 second. It used to be 2 seconds. Is that a W change or L change? The run out timer being reduced.
Had issues with this. A decent portion of the community didn't like the nerf because they enjoyed running out and felt this nerf stopped a lot of fun strategies. And others felt this nerf wasn't enough and that Ubisoft needed to go more extreme with it because they felt any run out was unfair and unbalanced. And so they wanted Ubisoft to make people who run out instantly detected without any sort of timer. This is still somewhat debated today, and it's never really been something everyone can agree on. Some folks really like to run out and wish that the timer was longer. Some folks are fine with it the way it is, and others wish that the timer would just go away entirely and people just get detected instantly. Now,
what the hell was Clubhouse back here? What the hell is this? Why do I not ever remember Clubhouse to look like? I never remember standing here at a window. Why do I not remember that?
And others wish that the timer would just go away entirely and people would just get detected instantly.
I literally was playing the game back there as well. Why do I not remember that?
This video as well. Gameplay after death, a concept that Ubisoft had tested.
This is what I was talking about earlier. Does no one remember this? This didn't even make it to the game. Look at this.
In the test server is probably one of the most controversial changes Ubisoft has ever tried to implement. Gameplay after death, which released in the North Star test server, was a huge balancing change that allowed the attackers to still drive their drones after dying, and the defense could still use their camera-oriented gadgets like Maestro and Echo after dying as well. Most of the community consider this to be disastrous and were worried it can completely break the balance of the game. And the community being so worried about this addition is the reason why Gameplay After Death is one of the few major balancing changes that Ubisoft actually didn't release from the test server. It just kind of died and the concept has never really been tested further. And the other major contribution that North Star has made to this video was the addition of the shattered glass mechanic. This was a controversial change because it allowed players to get close to a mirror window or Maestro cam and melee them to shatter the glass, which would break visibility. Most people didn't have a problem with the mirror window part of it, but Maestro cams being able to be meleeed is where the issue arises.
What about Maestro? Chat, do you think you should be able to melee the Maestro glass or no? Because mirror, like the mirror one is good, but what about Maestro? Do you reckon being able to melee the? You think so? Yeah.
After this change, Maestro was basically countered by every possible gadget in the game, and now melees, which made many people feel picking him was kind of pointless because his cameras would just get countered within the first minute of the round or so.
It did severely nerf him, but
be a Maestro player, and Ubisoft has never really considered going back on this change, despite it still having such a huge effect on Maestro. Now, next up in Operation Crystal Guard, we have a change that resulted in huge community uproar, and that is the P10 Roni losing 5 bullets. This made many people upset because the community had wanted Mozzie's P10.
Why? Tell me why the P10 Roni now has 15 bullets, okay? It used to have, what, like 20, 21? It now has, well, technically has 16, but you have to, like, reload twice for it. But this one, the low ammo count on this P10 Roni, what did they do?
Roni to lose its 1.5 for a very long time. However, instead of implementing the change that many people expected, the Ubisoft decided to take ammo away from the P10 Roni, which at the time only had 20 bullets, meaning that the P10 Roni now only had 15 bullets per magazine. And since this change applied to all P10 Ronis, this meant that a Roni was now nerfed as an unnecessary side effect of this change. This angered a lot of people, including myself at the time, and I still don't really understand why Ubisoft went through with this idea. Now in Operation Demon Veil,
15 bullets. We're gonna announced that it's still
debated today, and that is cameras being disabled after being thrown outside. Now this change applied to pretty much any—
Oh, this one ages ago. Chat, Maestro cams outside, BP's outside, Valkyrie cams outside. Is it valid or not valid? Not having cams outside. So should you be able to have cams outside? Is this a valid change?
Any camera you could possibly think of. Bulletproof cameras, Valkyrie cameras, Echo.
So here's a problem, right? I'm gonna quickly just yap for like a minute. Here's a problem, okay? So if we go back on this, like this video so far, like we've had like run out timers, like Valkyrie cams outside, or just like bullet counts on certain guns. And it's like, here's the problem, right? It's like, yes, it's like, oh, it's a valid change because it's too strong or whatever. But then do you think that things being too strong makes the game fun? Like, in a way. So it's like, I don't know where you, like, where do you draw the line? So like, it's a problem. It's like, I loved Valkyrie cams outside. I used to be a Valkyrie main. When I say I have Valkyrie is my second most played op of all time. Ashe is number one, obviously. Valkyrie is number two, because I used to be a Valkyrie main for the longest time, putting cams outside, running out, blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, like, I enjoyed it so much back then, but is it healthy for the game? I don't know. Probably not. But then it's like, do you keep it in the game just to have that overpowered operator and make the game fun in that way, or do you balance the game? And yeah, the game might be balanced, but it might, so it's like, where do you draw the line? That's a problem.
Drones, Maestro's Evil Eyes, and even Mozzie's hacked cameras. And many people felt this change was pointless since there were plenty of counters to cameras being outside already, like bringing IQ, and people felt operators other than Valkyrie were caught in the crossfire. However, there was still a significant portion of the community that didn't enjoy this change and thought it was necessary with the current state of the game because it stopped IQ from being an auto pick at the higher levels and opened up people's lineups to being more unique. And a few seasons later, another controversial change that many people might have forgotten is the addition of Rook's armor having self-revive. It may not seem like it now, but this change was indeed controversial when it was first announced. Many people felt this would make Rook obnoxious to go against and could borderline make him overpowered. There were many tweets and many Reddit posts about people being worried about Rook's effects on the meta going forward. However, others were happy with it because they felt it was healthy for Rook and helped to make him more competitive in the scene. Especially nowadays, this change really isn't debated that much because people have now realized that self-revive really doesn't have a huge effect on Rook, but back in the day, it was definitely debated heavily. Now, next up, we have a combination of changes that nerfed an operator to the ground, which resulted in many people being mad at Ubisoft. Those changes were Sledge losing his SMG-11 in Operation Crystal Guard, and Sledge becoming a 3 armor in Operation Solar Raid. Many people felt these changes combined made...
What did they do to Sledge? They made him a 1-speed and got rid of his SMG-11.
Sledge less competitive against the competition that he had, especially Buck, and just less fun to use overall. You have to keep in mind that Sledge being a 3 armor made it harder for him to run away from nitro cells that were being thrown at him through the floor, and losing access to his SMG-11 made it harder for him to play through vertical holes, because a common strategy at the time was to bring an ACOG on his primary weapon and to use the SMG-11 to peek through vertical holes with a 1x sight. Both of these changes back to back made Sledge a lot less competitive compared to Buck, and it basically resulted in Buck's pick rate skyrocketing and Sledge getting picked less and less.
And
so because of this, I think most of the community that held this opinion at that time were probably correct, because honestly, if Sledge got those changes reverted, it would still not make him strong enough to compete with Buck in his current state. Now, arguably the most controversial change in the entirety of Siege history came in Solar Raid, which was the rework to Ranked or Ranked 2.0. Ubisoft made this rework with the idea to increase player retention and to improve the matchmaking.
So this is, I got a few things about this, okay? Rank 2.0. Do we prefer the journey from copper all the way to champion, or do you prefer having those 10 placements where in those 10 placements it's almost like double XP, and like those 10 placements really make up where you're gonna land in that like range, right? So like those 10 first games are like double elo, right? So if you lose, you're losing double elo, but if you win, you're like those 10 placements are like really, those are like the most important games ever. Like those 10 first games are the most important. Or you can just go through the grind of like, you start from copper, you work all your like your way up, whatever. I think the problem is most people, everyone says like, oh, the problem with rank 2.0 is like everyone's champ and blah blah blah, right? But in a sense, right, I understand in rank 2.0 everyone is champ, right? But do you not think, right, do you not think if they added a new rank into rank 2.0, so they changed nothing about the elo, okay, they change absolutely nothing about the elo, how the elo works, how the rank, they just simply add a new rank and call it top 500. Do you not think then instantly rank 2.0 would just feel so much more competitive? Because it's like all the people that are like champ, but like not supposed to be champ in a way, like they just hit champ and then they just stop. Like they'll wanna, because then that champ grind to top 500 would just feel like, I don't know how to explain it, like it will kind of feel like ranked 1.0 in a way, like it will feel, but I don't know, it could cause issues, it could be a good thing, it could, I don't know. Then it's just COD, it's Siege, it's not COD. I don't think adding a singular rank is gonna suddenly turn Rainbow Six Siege into Call of Duty. But I don't know. Then it's just COD. Okay, so what COD is then? Overwatch. Overwatch has top 500. then what? Overwatch is also Quake. I don't know, like, it's just, but I don't know.
However, there are a multitude of common complaints levied towards the system.
I don't know how to fix it.
No longer
I don't
being
know.
tied to how your
I'm not
match
saying
made.
that. I'm not saying that's how they should do it. I'm just saying, like, this is a suggestion, but I don't know. Let's see what this guy
Many
says.
people feel that their ranks didn't really matter because it no longer had any importance to their matchmaking, and it kind of just felt to many like this was just a battle pass, since all you were really doing by climbing the ranks was getting access to more rewards. Also, this rework made matchmaking extremely confusing for a wide portion of the player base because players in Copper could end up getting match made with champions. This is still something that content creators and community members of Ubisoft have to explain to newer players, because a lot of them get really confused by this and it's not really explained very well to the average person. This, combined with the fact that games are just objectively less balanced now after rank 2.0, resulting in many matches going 0 to 4 in one direction, makes a lot of people have huge gripes with the system. Ranked 1.0 was definitely not perfect, and many opponents of rank 2.0 admit that. However, the opponents of rank 2.0 argue that the original system was better because it was less confusing and resulted in more competitive matches.
The thing is, though, this might be a hot take. This might be a hot take coming from me. I think that in rank 2.0, now there's some good things to this and there's some bad things to this, okay? I do believe in rank 2.0, the matchmaking is more accurate. I might get flamed for saying that, but I'm gonna say it. I think in rank 2.0, the matchmaking is more accurate, okay? Because in ranked 1.0, I remember in ranked 1.0, I could be in a full champ stack and you could just face a full plat stack and it would make no sense. But then again, that can still kind of happen now. But I feel like now, like, even if you have like 1 or 2 champs in the team, like, you're gonna face like 1 or 2 champs on the enemy team. But I don't know. I just feel like back then, like, you can see the screenshot, the amount of screenshots back in the day where it would just be 5 champs versus 5 plats. Like, there's so many screenshots of that, but like, you don't see it too much now. I'm not saying it's fully fixed, but I don't know. There's some perks to rank 2.0, there's some perks to rank 1.0, but oh yeah, the downside to that though is if all you're getting is just champs and high elo, like, it kind of gets a bit boring because it's just going to be cheaters every single game and the sweaty champs and blah, blah, blah. And then, like, you make an alt account because you just want to have fun and, you know, just face, like, emeralds or... But then, like, in 2 games, you're just back to, like, the cheaters and the champs and... But I don't know. I guess, like, you know, I guess it's kind of smurfing, but it's also kind of valid because the second you get champ elo, every single game will just be cheaters.
Now, another change that came in Operation Solar Raid that was less controversial, but still so, was Twitch losing her vertical grip. This change was hated by a lot of the community because it basically made the F2 uncontrollable for the average player. Without the vertical grip, the F2's recoil was significant, probably the hardest to control weapon in the game, and it forced many players onto the 417. Many argued, and still do, that this change was dumb because it didn't solve the actual issues.
Solo queue is trash when going up against full stack of champs when I've never hit champ once. Yeah, that's another problem as well. But did you ever aim spade? Did you ever play ranked 1.0? Aim spade?
With the gun like its fire rate, and instead just made it uncontrollable. In the grand scheme of things, this change really isn't that big of a deal because as time has gone on, DMRs have gotten a lot stronger, but at the time, many people did feel that this change was unnecessary and it did hurt Twitch a lot in her pick rate. Now, skipping a year ahead to Year 8 Season 3 or Operation Heavy Metal, it marked another significant change in the playlist of Rainbow Six Siege, and that is the quick match rework. This change...
I don't play quick match. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? Like, in a quick match, it will just have, like, all the pre-reinforcements and rotates, and is that good or bad?
Controversial because many felt it was tone deaf. It removed access to unranked altogether and replaced it with standard, and then it completely reworked the way quick match functioned from the ground up. It added the addition of automatic reinforcements, which many players in the community felt it removed the ability for new players to learn in quick match, and it also removed a lot of the competitiveness. And then another really unpopular change from this rework was the removal of runouts and spawn peaks early in the round. And the reason why this was so controversial was because a lot of the fun that people had in quick match was running outside and going for spawn peaks and just playing really aggressive. And Ubisoft removing that capability.
I feel like I don't mind it because it's quick match. You know, if you want quick match and you wanna get that experience and whatever, like there's always standard. But then again, I think I don't know if he's gonna send this video. I think them making unranked into standard is a bad thing.
From people in quick match made a lot of people mad and caused a lot of people to just stop playing quick match altogether. To go along with this, heavy metal also brought us the frost rework, probably the most controversial rework that an operator has ever gotten. The reason this rework was so hated because it allowed an attacker to just pull themselves out of a frost mat themselves, meaning that you could no longer play frost mats far away from yourself, and you had to be playing near your frost mats, or your teammates had to be playing near your mats to ensure that you got kills from your mats. This change was so hated that it was booed when Ubisoft announced it at their reveal. ME players were frustrated with this addition after it getting booed off the stage. I think now less people care about this rework than they did when it was first announced because it hasn't really affected Frost in any significant.
So I feel like Frost is just the same. I feel like 95% of the time, if they land in a Frost mat, they're kind of gonna die, right? Or whatever. And it's like, it really just goes to show that like they can announce a change or come out with a change. Like people, the amount of times they will announce a new op, you guys see it as well, right? So you go on a Twitch chat, whatever, they announce a new operator and the whole Twitch chat is, this new operator is overpowered. What the fuck were they thinking? The new op comes out, they don't ever get played. Not overpowered at all, doesn't ever get played. Like it just
way, but at the time a lot of people hated on it. There was a decent portion of the community though that did fight in its defense and argued that the change really wouldn't affect them much, because of the fact that it rewards the gameplay that most people were already doing, which is playing near her traps. Now moving on to the following season, Operation Deep Freeze, we had a pretty big rework to a fundamental gadget, and that was the frag grenade. This was hated by a significant portion of the community.
Now this one low-key is 50-50 split. And people might hate my answer, but I guess 50% of people hate my answer because it's a 50-50 split. Cooking grenades, is it a good thing or a bad change? Because I might get hate for this. I low-key think it's kind of a good change, okay? And I will explain why. Because grenades can still be used for room clearing or whatever, right? You can still get rid of util, you can still get rid of whatever, right? The amount of times as a defender that you're just holding a door and a nade would come flying at your feet, no time to react at all, and you're dead. I think nading below, you can still kind of do it because you can just shoot a little bit out and then, but I can see the other, you know, it did give the attackers that upper hand because defense is kind of, you know, strong. So it did. So maybe, I don't know. I'm still just 50-50 on it. I don't like, I guess if it was still in the game, I wouldn't mind it. Like it never was a thing where it was like, they need to get rid of this, but like, I also don't mind that it's gone. So it's kind of just like, I'm not bothered either way. I think the one thing I'm most bothered about with Siege is simply the ADS speed. If they simply just decrease the, so just make it faster. When you aim down sight, from on ADS to aim down sight, just make that quicker. That's all I want. That's literally the one thing I want.
Specifically high ranked players, because they felt it removed a significant portion of skill from the game. The reason why Ubisoft decided to do this rework and remove cooking from nades is because players were going below the bomb site, hiding a drone in the site, and then hopping on.
Oh, that's another, that's another thing as well. Like, not even just, like, should someone be able to do this? So let's say, like, they have an Azami holding stock or whatever, or just, like, should someone be able to just do this?
And then yellow pinging someone and killing them from below with a frag grenade.
Like, should you, like, the defender has no idea, they're holding something, and then out of nowhere, they're dead. Like, I feel like that was a bit, that's why, like,
this did require decent timing because you had to know how to precisely cook a nade in a way.
That's why I kind of don't mind it.
But it really wasn't as difficult as many players tried to point it out to be, which is why a decent portion of the community, including myself, felt it was necessary for balancing the game, because it made playing on site actually possible, and you no longer had to be worried about a Nook or a Sledge just going below the bomb site and just killing you out of nowhere. Now, another major rework would come in Operation Deadly Omen that resulted in the community being very split, and that is the shield rework. The shield rework is still having its effects on the community right now, and that's because it made Montagne and Blitz a whole lot more competitive by allowing them to reload behind their shields, throw smoke grenades or other secondary gadgets from behind their shields, and to run up on the defenders.
Wait, I just realized you couldn't do that with the older shield. Reload behind your shield. That's probably why back then there was so, like, because you have to reload and... Bro, even just simply reverting that, like, have them have to... I didn't realize how much they actually changed like you reload behind your shield. You can throw your gadgets behind your shield. You can, like, the defenders literally never get a chance to shoot at you because they're just always behind your shield
while still being covered with their shield in front of them. However, they did remove the shield operator's
sprint
ability
behind
to
your
Hipfire,
shield,
but all the other changes kind of make up for that. The reason this is so controversial is because many people feel this rework has made shields way too strong and has resulted in them becoming nearly impossible to counter, especially when you take into account the nerf to impact grenades damage and radius that has helped shields even further. The balancing of shields many players just feel is all out of whack right now, and a lot of people think that Ubisoft needs to go back and tune down the changes that they made in Deadly Omen. Now,
do you think shields, like shield ops, should have a stamina bar, and that's just how much you can just sprint in the whole round and you just utilize it when you want to utilize it? Would that be a good change? Like, just that alone, just like the second that stamina bar is depleted, you can't sprint anymore. So let's say you have a total of like 30 seconds of sprinting. So bear in mind, a round is like 2 minutes. No, a round is 3 minutes. Let's say you have like 30 or 45 seconds of sprinting. You have to utilize that duration bar when you want to sprint. Like,
Operation New Blood's recruit rework is disliked for reasons that pretty much no other change on this
the recruit
list
rework,
and that is because
is it good or bad?
It wasn't even a rework. A lot of players hold the position that it just removed a lot of features and didn't really do anything substantial to the recruit, because the recruit rework removed access.
See, the recruit rework makes the game more compy. Like, it is more like compy, like Pro League or compy, whatever. But it's not memey anymore. You know, it's not memey. It's not casual. So I guess for a comp, it's good, but that memey casual player, like, it's not really.
Access to a lot of additional loadouts. It removed the ability for your team to pick 5 recruits at once, which was a popular and fun strategy in quick match and also in ranked. And all it really did in return was allow you to pick any combination of secondary gadgets. I guess it just depends if you're a comp player or casual. It really was just a nothing burger, and that's still how most people feel in the community. Nothing burger. Striker and Sentry still really haven't made a
Jacob with a tier 1,
and they aren't really operators that people discuss very often because of how mediocre they are. The same cannot be said about the Solis reworks that came in Operation New Blood and Twin Shells, which will go down in history as probably the most significant nerfs an operator has ever received. This rework turned Solis from being the objectively most powerful defender in the game that could see attacker utility through walls, see them planting through the floor, deny drones unlike any other,
do you think Solis was over nerfed
abilities with her amazing guns, to an operator that was borderline useless overnight? And that is because of the addition of the overclock mechanic and also the huge nerfs to her gadget's radius. These changes making
was Solis over nerfed, properly nerfed, or
her so weak has resulted in many people being unhappy with Ubisoft's choices towards her balancing, and many felt, especially after the New Blood rework, that Ubisoft should not have gone in for round 2 in Twin Shells and nerfed her again.
I feel like, do you know what I low-key think, right? Is I think this is all they needed to do. Jacob with the gifted! Can we get some W's in the chat for Jacob with the sub and the gifted? I think all they, so you know how with the new Solis, if Solis is looking at you, the attackers can see it from her end, right? She can see that, right? I think the 2 things they needed to do, right? So let's say you go all the way back to just OG Solis, so like the Impact Solis, this OG Solis. All you need to do is 1, add the thing where the attackers can see that Solis is looking at them, and 2 is get rid of it so you can't see it in the prep phase. I think that alone is fine. Make it so she can't use her gadget in prep phase, and make it so the attackers can see that they're being looked at. Because I think my problem with Solis, as fun as Solis was, my problem was just as an attacker, I feel like you just could not ever drone. Is that just me?
Oh, thank you for the song.
Jacob with another gifted! I feel like as fun as Solis was, I feel like as an attacker, this is just my opinion, everyone has different opinions, you know, you can whatever. I feel like as an attacker, I could just never drone. I just, no matter where like I'm standing, I just feel like it's never safe to drone, no matter what. I'm standing on a balcony droning, nope, I can't do that. Like, droning is such a fundamental thing as an attacker. The fact that Solis can just, so like, it's kind of like, I don't know. I think, just like I said, make it so the attackers can see that you're being Solis and get rid of the prep phase bit. Like, you can get her impacts back. You can get rid of, you know, just... That's really it.
Yeah. This is still a debated topic right now because it's extremely recent. So many players have different opinions on this. So we'll just have to see how these changes pan out as time goes on. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed this.
I think it was over-nerfed. I do think it was over-nerfed. If I could add any more controversial changes to that, I would add Zofia being turned into 1-speed. Them slowing down the ADS speed. So like slowing down the ADS. I would add, what else would I add? I think just those two mainly. Just, he said in the video Sledge, I would add Zofia onto that as well. So Zofia, some of them are just stupid, like just reducing the bullet count on Ash. Like it's not really controversial, but it's just kind of like, what are you doing? And I think my biggest thing is literally the ADS speed. I can't tell you the amount of times, like, I know people say, oh, but just slow down and play the game more tactical. And bro, you realize as an attacker, you have to execute a plan. On the attacking side, it's like, okay, we got to do this. Okay, are we ready? 3, 2, 1, let's rush the site. You rush the site, you rushed site, and then it takes 10 years to aim down site, and it's just, it's not good.